Hello everyone and welcome along to the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of this weekend's game between Arsenal and Burnley at the Emirates Stadium, which takes place on Sunday at 2 p.m. A big game for both clubs this one, of course. Arsenal going for the Champions League, Burnley now rock bottom of the Premier League. With several games in hand, but still rock bottom of the Premier League. Points are needed. The games in hand are irrelevant if you don't pick up the points. So it's time we start picking up some points. And it's going to be a bit of a difficult task this weekend against an Arsenal team that seems to have turned it around from the early season. Whereas the form has been a little bit, I'm going to say indifferent, but that's just because they've lost, I think, one game recently, and that was against Man City, and they played quite well in that game. I'm recording this on Thursday, by the way, so they might have got their arse handed to them by Liverpool on Thursday night. I wasn't aware of that when I did it. But their form has been a lot better recently, and they're quite strong at home, I think, are Arsenal. So I think it's going to be a difficult game for Burnley this week. Of course, we won there last season, but I think in a weird way that's going to count against us. I think Arsenal will remember that, and they'll be more up for it than what they probably would have been. But obviously, Arsenal are going for the Champions League. They need the points because United and Tottenham both won midweek. Burnley need the points because Norwich, Newcastle and Watford all picked up points last week when Burnley's games were postponed, because of course we had the game on Tuesday, which would have been against Watford, postponed as well. But let's get into it. And I'm pleased to say that we are joined by a very special guest this week who is well known by a lot of people. In fact, millions of people will know this man. And just like that, as promised, we are joined by Robbie Lyle from the AFTV channel and, of course, the Don Robbie channel, YouTube royalty. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. You?
Yeah, good, thanks. It's a pleasure to have you on, mate. Thank you for coming on. I know you're a very, very busy man running two successful channels, and you've just been telling me off air you've literally come here straight from a meeting, so I really appreciate your time, mate.
No worries, man. No worries.
Yeah, so of course, we're looking ahead to Arsenal against Burnley taking place this weekend. I guess the first thing is, mate, is the game actually on? What's the situation in the Arsenal camp? Because in the Burnley camp, we don't really know much about what's going on other than actual Dyche's last press conference. We've just had two games called off. You had one called off recently, I think. I think it was the Liverpool game, wasn't it? Which you're due to play tonight. We're recording this on Thursday.
We had the
Arsenal?
The Tottenham. We had the Liverpool first one was called off.
Then the Tottenham one, you're
right.
That
was because of Liverpool, and then the Tottenham one, yeah.
Yeah. So what's the situation with Arsenal?
Now I think, we're good to go. We've got players back. Listen, some of these games that have been getting called off are a bit of a farce.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure how many of the players it's been down to COVID. We've had a lot of injured players. We've had a lot of players away at African Cup of Nations, 4 players away at that. So I think with the amount of injuries and with the amount of players that were away at AFCON, and then I think just very limited COVID cases, we just couldn't get a decent team out. So that's why the game got cancelled. But as far as I know, we're good to go for Sunday.
Happy days. Well, that's both good and bad news, I guess, because the game will be on, but we're probably more than likely going to get beat. But we'll get into that. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a case of clubs have been bending the rules, but these rules have been put in place, obviously, by the Premier League, and the Premier League should be a little bit stricter on it, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been a farce. I think there's some teams where it's genuine, but I think there's other teams. I know when Liverpool, pulled out of the game with us.
The false positives one.
The false positives, and then there's been certain other teams. And I think what happened with Arsenal is that they just said, you know what, everybody else is doing it. So why should we go into the North London derby with like a half-cooked team, right? Yeah. We'll play that game when we've got everybody back, and we will take advantage of what everybody else has been taking advantage of. Because at the start of the season, when we played our first couple of games, we had a load of COVID cases. The first game in particular, if we could have got out of play, well, we asked not to play that game. The first game of the season, we had so many COVID cases. We asked if we could not play that game, and it was turned down. And we played the game and got beaten away at Brentford. And the next game, Chelsea, we still had COVID cases, and COVID cases to like top players like Lacazette, Aubameyang, these guys, Ben White. They're all missing through COVID. And again, it was turned down, and we had to play that game. So, whilst I know that I see the frustration of everybody, and I kind of agree with it, I don't think Arsenal have bent the rules under the current format. Obviously, with Burnley, I don't know. You guys have had so many games that haven't been on. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been mad, but only 2 of them have been because of us having COVID. The other 4, well, one was because of the snow against Spurs, and then the other 3 was the other teams doing it. So we've only done the last 2. But obviously the reaction on Twitter would suggest otherwise. But yeah, it's just the last 2 for us. But I agree with what you're saying. Like, Arsenal are well within the rights to do what they did, and I think Burnley are as well. Why should Arsenal put a weakened team out in such a massive game? And the same with Burnley against Watford if other clubs are bending the rules. I think we were the same as you. We just thought, I've had enough. Other teams keep getting away with it. Yeah. We might as well do it. So as I said on Twitter, you can't blame the horse of bolting if someone leaves a stable door open. And I think the Premier League have left the stable door open and all the clubs have bolted. So the other 2 horses might as well bolt. But looking at your season then, from the outside looking in, started poorly, picked up a lot recently, and now within a chance of the Champions League. From the outside looking in, I think you're in a good position at the minute. What do you make of your season so far?
It's been like a Jekyll and Hyde season. You know what I mean? We started off the season really poorly. Lost our first 3 games. People were talking about relegation, which was ridiculous. But started off really poorly. Then we picked it up, went on a great run. Then again, we had another patch where, we had that game when we played Everton away when, the Everton were, in the mud, and we dragged them out of it with a really horrible performance. Then we picked it up again. We were playing really good. But then we had that FA Cup, defeat against Nottingham Forest, which again was a bit of a shock, because we've got such a good record in the FA Cup. So for us now, it boils down to 2 things. The league, like you said, we're in a decent position to try and get a top 4 spot. It's between, I feel, us, Tottenham, Manchester United, and West Ham. It's a very close thing. You can't say it's going to be who can put a bit of a consistent run together will get that spot. And then we've still got the Carabao Cup, as you said at the time of this being recorded, the games tonight, if we could get through to the final of that. But I think the most important thing for Arsenal this season, and I think the priority for Mikel Arteta will be trying to get into the top 4 in the league. And we got a chance. And it's all we got to go for. It's a really weird season for Arsenal because normally, you're coming into January, February, you've got Europa League or Champions League, you've got FA Cup run, we always go deep down into those competitions at the very minimum. But this time around, we're out of those. So basically, we just got 1 game a week. It's weird. So, but it could be something that could help us. And, I think Arsenal in recent games, have been playing really well, been playing some good football. I think the defeat we had against Man City, we should never have lost that game. We played them off the park for most of the game. We've been very, very strong at home in our performances. And, I feel with Arsenal, what it is for me, if we've got our full starting 11 out, we're a match for anybody really in the league. It's just that we are very reliant upon that sort of full starting 11/12. If we start getting deeper into that and we're having lots of injuries and that's when we struggle because the backup players are not as good.
Yeah, fair enough. I think a lot of teams are like that, apart from City and Liverpool, to be fair. They're the only ones that I really see with any decent depth. But I remember last time I spoke to you, and it seems to be of like a running debate on all the Arsenal channels. I think I was on Turkish London podcast recently, or the Forever Arsenal, I think it's called, earlier this season. And the debate's always been Arteta in, Arteta out. From the outside looking in again, that kind of looks like it's died down a little bit. Is that fair? Or I guess you'll see more than me. Obviously, being 5th in the league, you'd think it would have died down a little bit. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's died down for quite a while, to be honest. You know what I mean? I think even those people who wanted him out, were at the realization that, listen, he's not going nowhere. And let's give him a fair crack of the whip. Personally, I've always been, even after the first 3 games of the season, I was like, he's on thin ice. Obviously, this is a results-based business. It doesn't matter who you are. If Sean Dyche loses 10 games in a row, even though your fans love him, they'll still be saying, hey, you know what? So it's a results-based business. But I was thinking he's on shaky ground. He needs to start getting it going. And he did get it going. Yeah. And what I've seen in recent games is one of the things I've been personally a bit critical of Mikel Arteta of has been I've not really understood what our pattern of play is. But over the last couple of months, I've started to see that. I've started to see what he's trying to do. I've started to see a pattern of play. And I really do think he should be given a chance. I mean, my thing was even after about the first 4 or 5 games, I was like, let's give him till the end of the season and see what he does. Now, if he can get us into the top 4 this season, I think that would be
definitely
an outstanding season because at the start of the season, you wouldn't have said Arsenal have got the 4th best team in the league. You'd be looking at Man United and teams like that. But so far, we still lose too many games in my books. But I've been liking what I've been seeing in recent times. Of some really exciting football.
Yeah, you're right there. Lost 7 games, which is West Ham have lost 7 as well. But United and teams like that have only lost 6. Tottenham only lost 5. But the results last night, let's talk about the Champions League chase then, because the results last night didn't really go your way, especially that Tottenham one, winning it from like the 94th minute or whatever it was. Do you think you'll do it? If you had to put your neck on the line now, do you think Arsenal will finish in that top 4? Because I don't think Chelsea are 100% safe yet. They've got a bit of a points gap. That's the only thing that's helping them. But
I think Chelsea will. Chelsea will. I'd be shocked if they, again, what we talk about with squad depth. I think Arsenal, you know what, putting my neck on the line is too difficult to do because I know what we're like, man. You know what I mean? But I do think we've got a good chance. I think it depends what we do in this transfer window. If we just get a couple in and strengthen it a bit. And I do think that one of the things that are going to be to our advantage, and it's also going to be to Tottenham's advantage as well, is that we're not in Europe. Yeah. So, even West Ham are in Europe and then now go into important games in the next stage in Europe. And then, Manchester United are still in the Champions League. And you do have to, juggle your squad around, when you're in those competitions. So with Arsenal not having the deepest squad, I think that's going to help us. And we're going to always have a week to be ready for certain games. So that could tip it for us. But that's also the case for Tottenham because they got thrown out of the Conference League. So they haven't got no Europe as well. So I think it could help Arsenal, the fact that we don't have European football. But I think if we could just get a couple in the transfer window, because as I said, I like our starting 11, but the squad's not, if like there's certain players, if they're out for any length of time, you see, it's a big difference. You see it. It's huge.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Arsenal in the transfer window then. What's currently happening? Because the last I saw, Fab tweeted something about Arthur Melo at Juventus potentially coming in. Is there any other incomings that you can see on the horizon that we won't know about?
The big one that Arsenal have been going for is this guy Dusan Vlahovic, who plays for Fiorentina. He's been on fire for a couple of seasons now in Italy. Prolific, 21 years old. I think a lot of clubs are looking at it and thinking after Haaland and obviously Mbappe, in the summer, he'll be the next big after those 3. Arsenal have been working very hard to try and get him in this January transfer window. It'd be a huge fee, but they're deadly serious about trying to get him. Now, if we could pull that off, that would be amazing. That's, that's really game-changing for Arsenal. But a really difficult one to do in January, but they are trying. The Arthur one from Juventus, I think that will, I personally think I can see that one happening. There's a few little sticking points on it, but that's more of a loan move. We are very short in the midfield area. So if we could pull those 2 off, wow. Especially the Vlahovic one.
Yeah, I've seen him play a few times.
Yeah, he's a very good player.
Yeah. Let's talk about the current squad as well then, because there's something going on. I've not seen much of this. I only saw it this morning. I thought I'll ask Robbie about that. Is the Granit Xhaka match fixing thing? There's something to do with a yellow card. Honestly, I don't even know the entire details.
Be careful who you're saying which player it is.
Oh well, I just presumed it was allegedly Granit Xhaka. We'll put that one out there.
Allegedly.
Yeah. It's just weird that, isn't it? It's just come out of nowhere. I saw it on Sky Sports, I think, and then it did the rounds on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of speculation at the moment. And, Yeah, I don't know enough about it to be starting to say whether that has happened or not. I mean, I hope it's not true. I hope it's not true that any Arsenal player would be involved in something like that. And at the moment, it is an investigation. And I know it blew up on Twitter and everybody's saying, oh, it could be this player and that player. I think, in the case of things like this, you have to wait and see because nobody knows. Nobody's, there might have been leaks or something, but nobody knows. But certainly I'm hoping it's not, any Arsenal player that this is down to and that this is just an investigation that they're doing. Because certainly if something like that is true, it's not, that's terrible. That's one thing we want is the integrity of the game to be right. And these footballers make enough money as it is. They don't need to. I never understand why they do these little, get involved in these little betting things and stuff like that. But yeah, let's hope it's nothing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Even
if it's Granit Xhaka, he gets sent off and get yellow cards all the time, so it's easy to bet
it's
on
probably. I would presume. Yeah, I would presume.
He's an easy person to pick out, isn't he?
Exactly. I was going to say it's just someone who knows that Granit Xhaka gets booked or sent off a lot. So if you're going to put big money on someone to get booked,
I don't even think you get good odds on Granit
Xhaka.
Only
3-1 on, yeah. But let's talk about, we'll go back to, obviously we've talked about COVID and that, and you mentioned the squad's not too deep. Let's talk about any injuries or any suspensions that you might have that could obviously affect the game. Is there anything that we need to know? Because obviously you'll have seen the press conferences and things like that, whereas we wouldn't have done.
Yeah, you know what? I'm still, he's not giving a lot away, Mikel Arteta. So some of the obvious players that have been out has been Tomiyasu, it's been guys like Emil Smith-Rowe. These are big players, Saka. Now I have seen pictures of a lot of them training. So I'm hoping that most of them will be back. But he's not letting, he's keeping his cards close to his chest. But certainly, I feel the game against Burnley, he'll be looking to put out his strongest possible team. Because as I said, in the league, it's all about trying to go for the top four. Tottenham had a big win the other night. So did Manchester United. We really need to beat Burnley. Tottenham have got Chelsea at the weekend, so the possibility that they could drop points, and we can push back up the league. So it's a very important game. The game against Burnley, very important. Before we go into that break as well. So.
But yeah, as you were saying then, obviously you're seeing the game as an important game. Obviously, you expect Arteta to see that because of the league position and because of what you want to achieve in the league. How do you think you're going to play in this game then? Obviously, you're expecting Arsenal to go strong. Do you think it's going to be a case of setting up to attack Burnley or hit us on the counter will be daft? But I presume you'll go pretty much straight for us from the first whistle.
Yeah, I think Arsenal playing at home, this is particularly over the last couple of months, has been a very offensive team on the front foot, taking it to teams, pressing them high, and really looking to impose themselves on teams. That's what I've liked about it. I've liked about Arsenal. Even away from home, we've been, very aggressive in our play. I've liked it. So I'd expect the same sort of thing against Burnley. And the players know it's a massive game. I know, like sometimes in the past, no disrespect to Burnley, but we play teams like Burnley and teams that we're expected to beat, and the attitude's not right, and we take a time to get going. But I think in this case, it's a huge game for Arsenal. Obviously, I know a huge game for you guys as well because you're battling against relegation. So Arsenal cannot afford to turn up and don't respect Burnley. And I want us to play exactly like how we did when we played against Man City.
Yeah, fair. I think I spoke to another Arsenal fan last night and he said a similar sort of thing, like Arsenal can sometimes just not turn up and then things like that. But I think with what happened last season at the Emirates, I think that will force you to take Burnley a little bit more seriously. I think that'll force you. Yeah. I remember going into that game thinking, it's a free hit. If we get beat, we get beat. And then obviously we ended up winning it. But I see this game as similar. It's a free hit. I'm not going to lose too much sleep if we get beat 3-4-0. Even if we have a few COVID cases, I'd be like, just get this one out of the way because there's no point in even putting the full squad out. I sound very negative at the minute, but being bottom of the league, obviously you would be. But I just want to get your opinions on Burnley at the minute because there's a lot of Burnley fans, myself included, and there's a lot of people writing us off. I think we're gone personally. It was the game against Leeds that, for me, sealed our fate. And then the sale of Chris Wood. It depends who we bring in, but I am.
Yeah.
I think this is the season that we go. What are you thinking on our season so far? Do you think we'll go down?
I don't know. He's Sean Dyche, man. He's a battler. And when you go into war, you need a battler, and you've got a battler. And I wouldn't put money on Burnley going down. I know Chris Wood has gone, which was real. I was really surprised about that, but I don't think he scored he hasn't been on fire in front of goal this season anyway, has he?
Yeah.
It depends who you bring in. It depends who you bring in. You know, the thing that surprised me about Burnley when I've watched them this season is how poor they've been at the back. It's not been so much the front play, because I remember there was a game I watched a few weeks ago. He's playing, was it United or?
We have played United recently.
Yeah, Man United at Old Trafford. And I was like, attacking-wise, you were a threat. You know, McNeil.
Yeah.
You know, attacking-wise, you really were a threat. But the defense, some of the goals you gave away, some of the big wide gaps in the space really surprised me about Burnley. That's one of the things that over the years, Burnley's defense has always been pretty solid. And I was like, it was quite surprising for me. And I sort of looked at a couple other games with Burnley games that I've watched, and I'm like, it seems like it's a bit too easy to score against Burnley at the moment. So I think that's where the issue is. I don't know if you're going to bring in any defenders, or maybe it's a midfield issue, but it just seemed to me that going forward, a threat, but defensively, that was it was quite alarming how wide open Burnley were. But I will you can't write Burnley off, man. I mean, not with Sean Dyche, not with I think there was you got some battlers in there. I think if you can get Cornet playing a lot more as well, I think he's real quality.
Yeah, he's class. And
it depends who you bring in for Chris Wood, because if he's only scored 3 goals this season, is it a big miss in it? I think you do need a player who's going to come in and score goals. I saw Andy Carroll being linked.
I mean, I'd have him as backup, but if we just bring Andy Carroll in, then you're signing the death warrant, really.
Yeah. The problem is now, this is the issue for even a team like Arsenal, who are looking for a striker as well, is in January, who do you get? That's the big issue.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to bring in someone who's going to come in, hit the ground running. That's the issue. I think that Chris Wood thing is a bit damaging, so surprising as well. That
well, I'm going to say they met the release clause, so there's not really much we could do. But
is it true that I heard a rumor that the release clause wasn't going to be in action until the summer?
No, it was. I don't know where that came from. Someone from the Telegraph reported that the release clause was there. And then some other people reported, it's not going to until the summer, but it was. They did meet the release clause of 25 million. 25 million, I thought we were down with Chris Wood. So it is massive who we bring in. I think this might force Dyche to change things up a little bit, and it could end up being a positive. I've not seen us play yet without Chris Wood, because obviously we haven't played without him yet. But again, it's massive. This transfer window is massive. If we don't bring anybody in, or we just bring Andy Carroll in, for example, then we might as well just give up now and go home. But if we bring some different types of players in, maybe more Cornet type players, then it could force Dyche to maybe change formation, change the way we play. Then it could end up being a good thing. But we'll see it. But you mentioned then obviously about how poor our defence were. That's part of the reason why I'm now convinced. Normally I'll be like, no, we're battlers and we'll get through it. But they don't throw themselves in front of the ball anymore. We've conceded too many goals from the edge of the box. You just wouldn't see that with Burnley, because Ben Mee would throw his face in front of it if he had to, whereas they don't seem to be doing that anymore. So there's little things there that I think are just different this season, and that's the main worry for me.
Yeah, I hope Burnley stay up. You know what I mean? I think Premier League needs teams like Burnley. You know what I mean? That teams that are smaller teams.
Yeah,
but that's to me what the Premier League's all about. Yeah. You know what I mean? The fact that you can go to Burnley, right? No matter who you are,
and
you're having a tough game, and you if you're not on it, you'll lose. And, and that's what I like about teams like Burnley, and I think that's what I like about English football. It's what makes it unique, and we need teams like Burnley. You know, I really don't want you guys to go. Listen, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I'm looking at the league. There's, you know, I still don't think Newcastle are safe. I think the pressure that they're going to be under to stay up is going to be huge. Watford, you know, there's teams down there. We know that. I think Norwich. You know, you've got loads of games in hand on Norwich.
Yeah.
You know, it's free to go out of a possible 4, probably. You know what I mean? So
I think it is. I think
who's going to be that team that just has that little bit of more fight than the others?
It could literally be any one of the 4 at the minute. I think Newcastle have the advantage because of the money, but obviously that, like you said, that brings added pressure. Watford have a decent, you know, Watford are decent going forward, but they're susceptible at the back. Whereas we're at the minute we're susceptible everywhere. So it depends on who we bring in. But yeah, obviously, fingers crossed we can turn it around. I'd obviously love it if we did. I'm resigned to it at the minute. But anyway, like I said, we've talked about the game in a way, and how you expect Arsenal to play. What sort of scoreline are you expecting then? Let's get some predictions in before we wrap it up.
It all depends, really. You know, we'll still be, you know, I'll be surprised to see Thomas Partey back in midfield. We're still a bit of a weakness there in that midfield area, I feel. I'll probably say 2-0. 2-0 to Arsenal on the day.
Yeah, fair enough. I can't really disagree with that. Like I said, I spoke to another Arsenal fan yesterday. I predicted the same thing.
We've been pretty strong. Strength for Arsenal has been at home. You know, I think we lost 2 games at home. Chelsea, as I said, we had a load of COVID cases and that, and Manchester City were very unlucky in that game. You know, going down to 10 men. I don't think we should have lost that game in a million years. So, we're quite strong at home.
Yeah, fair enough. A couple of seasons ago, we had a massive game at home to Leicester where we ended up picking a big result up. And, you know, just this could be one of them games. If, for example, we miraculously pick a point up, it could really turn the season around. Fingers crossed we can do it. Obviously, I think you'll disagree on that, you know. But
it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. We won there last year, but I think that in a way will count against us this time. I think you'll be more up for it because of that. But anyway, thanks for coming on the show. It's really good to always have you come on and get you on. Obviously, as I said,
listen, pleasure. Listen, obviously, come Sunday, you know, we need that. We need that badly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But after that, you know, I mean, I really hope that Burnley can survive. So, you know, always enjoy coming up there. So, I really hope that Burnley survive.
No, thanks for that, mate. And for those who've lived under a rock for the last 3-4 years, you just want to let everyone know where they can find your channels.
So AFTV and DR Sports on YouTube and all other platforms as well. So, yeah, thank you very much for that.
No worries. Thank you, mate. Thank you for coming on. And hopefully, I'll speak to you next season. But if not, hopefully I might get you in the FA Cup or something. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.